everyone, I am Sir Guyman, and welcome to the channel. And as you could see by the title, this is a video of how the world of 1984 came to be. More specifically, the geopolitical side, not the actual, you know, how Ingsoc rose or whatever. Uh, Also, this is just a theory video. This isn't what definitely happened. This is just what I think happened. So don't get mad at me if something is a little wrong. If you like today's video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 500 subscribers by the end of the year because I think it would be nice. So, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So when the timeline of 1984 is going to split off from our timeline is going to be in 1948, and the reason why it's going to be in 1948 is because of this little thing called the Berlin Airlift. So for a bit of context, Germany after World War II was split into West and East. The West being controlled by NATO and the East being controlled by the Soviets. So for the past for 3 years, the West had been driving supply lines from West Germany into West Berlin, and that is because the West controlled West Berlin. And yeah, for the past 3 years, the NATO has been doing that. And one day in 1948, Stalin was like, you know what? There will be no more Western trucks going in to aid West Berlin. And Stalin was like, ho ho ho, the big boy, big brain move. Because what are the Allies gonna do? They can't use their military to force the trucks to go in, and that would be a declaration of war. And and then president of the time, Harry Truman, knew this, so he's like, "I'm gonna do a even bigger brain move. I'm gonna have pilots fly over the blockade and into West Berlin, which was the Berlin Airlift." And Truman knew that that Stalin wouldn't dare shoot down any planes because if he did, that would basically be World War III. And if World War III were to break out, that would mean basically this entire area would not only become dead, but would probably become a radioactive wasteland. So Stalin in our timeline just kind of bit his tongue and was kind of just fuming. But he didn't let up for over a year until 1949 or whatever. So yeah, 1949. I think 15 months after Truman started flying planes in, Stalin was like, you know what, fine, you guys can go in, and ended the blockade. And so yeah, that was the Berlin Airlift. If you didn't know what that was, so in our timeline, we're gonna have it where Stalin does stop the Berlin Airlift, and by stopping, I mean he shoots down a few of the planes, a few of the American planes, and this is going to basically spark World War III. So the two sides of World War III are going to be, of course, NATO, and then we have the Warsaw Pact. You may notice a few countries are not in this war. First up, Sweden and Finland. They are neutral, and they would be neutral in our timeline until 2022 when they apply for NATO membership. We also have Ireland, who is neutral at this moment, and Spain. I don't think Spain joins until the 70s. Switzerland, Austria, pretty notoriously neutral states. And then Yugoslavia wasn't, I don't think, officially part of the Warsaw Pact in 1948, and I don't really think it was officially a member of the Warsaw Pact. I know they were communist, but for the sake of today's video, yeah, let's just make them on the USSR side. And then also Austria was neutral. This was decided by the Soviets uh, when they after World War II. They were they kind of wanted to divide up, or Austria was divided up, and then the one condition of just having it be one country was to just have it be neutral. So yeah, Austria is neutral. So anyway, let's get into World War III. So Stalin had been kind of planning this for a little while. You can't see it, but he instantly moves into Berlin and takes Berlin. He then marches his armies right over the border of Western Germany and takes out these cluster of cities over here. He then moves up into Denmark and basically just takes over Denmark because Denmark is a small little country with a small little military. And instead of falling in 6 hours to the Germans in World War II, they fall in 7 hours to the Soviets. So good job, Denmark. You live a little longer. Uh, yeah. Down here in Italy, the Soviets kind of also push into Italy. They get really close to down here to San Marino, and I think this is Florence over here. Actually, no, that's Florence. That's I don't know what city that is. And then down here in Greece, we have a little bit of NATO pushback where Greece invades into Albania and into Yugoslavia. Turkey is also invading into Bulgaria a little bit. But over here in eastern Turkey, the Soviets do manage to push in to Turkey. The Soviets, though, over here back in Germany, are very prepared. They've been preparing for this for a while now, and they kind of just blitz into southern Germany. They take a whole bunch of cities, and in the north, they rush into I don't know, northern Germany and push into the Netherlands, and they eventually take out all these major cities over here, and then wipe out the Netherlands. And then on the way to France, they use Belgium as it's kind of like a speed bump. Uh, Same with like the Germans in World War II. But yeah, Germany is completely knocked out. The Soviets move into Alsace-Lorraine and also into like the Calais area, and yeah, they threaten Paris. Over here in Italy, they just kind of cut southern Italy off from northern Italy, and then they also, for the sake of ease, they kind of just invade Austria, even though Austria is supposed to be a neutral nation. They just invade it anyways, completely take it out. And this is so they can have better troop movements into Western Europe. They also invade Switzerland, which is, something you don't really do because Switzerland is a huge ass mountain country. But the Soviets don't care. They need to move their troops from the east into the west, so they take out Switzerland. And yeah, they basically just bam, like that. And then they use Switzerland as they intended to move troops through it more easily. And so yeah, troops spill out of Switzerland and into Italy and France, and eventually Italy's kind of just like completely cut off from the rest of NATO. And then over here, the NATO offensive into the Balkans is pushed back almost basically completely. The Soviets then push into Greece and take over Thessaloniki and basically cut Greece off from Turkey. And then they move in and then capture Istanbul, and then they continue moving into Greece and basically just knock out the whole country, which is bad for NATO, because, well, yeah. And then the Soviets also continue invading Turkey from the east. They also cross over Istanbul, or over like the Strait of Istanbul or whatever that's called, and into western Turkey and begin to just wipe out the Turks. Yeah, it's not. The Soviets have been in this timeline have been ramping up military production to basically rival the United States. So yeah, that's not good for NATO, as we can see. But yeah, the USSR moves further into Turkey, and they basically meet up down here in the Mediterranean. And just like that, Turkey is gone. It surrenders, and now NATO is basically all on its own. And the Soviets wanting to invade Norway. First, they declare war on Finland, they declare war on Finland and Sweden, and they move uh, like lightning speed into Finland. And this time, that one sniper guy who took out a bunch of Soviet soldiers during World War II, he is not. He is taken out. He dies, which means the Soviets can basically just like waltz into uh, Finland and yeah, basically the rest of the Nordic countries. They go into Sweden. They take out their capital of Copenhagen. They then move across Sweden in lightning speed and take out Oslo. And just like that, the Nordics fall. Uh, there's not really anyone in this area, so that they basically just fall to the Soviets, which is not good for the rest of NATO, especially down here. Italy is just kind of taken out. Rome falls. The Soviets move around the coast of France, and that basically just cuts off all supplies to Italy. And then Italy falls under Soviet occupation, and the islands of Corsica and Sardinia are taken over. And then one of the final major European powers of France, uh, the Soviets encircle Paris and they capture it pretty easily. France is then completely taken over by the Soviets, and now Europe is basically, controlled by the Soviets. But the Soviets, they want total European domination, and one country standing in the way of total European domination is Portugal. So instead of just, I don't know, sailing around Spain and invading Portugal, they are going to invade Spain, and they are just going to decimate Spain. Th there's, like, this whole, like, invasion of, like, Western Europe has, like, 1,000,000 troops total, and now all those, like, and even with all the fighting, there's still like 700,000 troops left or something like that. And they are all pouring into Spain, completely wiping it out. They take Madrid, they move over here, they take Gibraltar, and then they move into Portugal. And it's basically just curtains for Europe. And yeah, NATO got their asses whooped. Now it's just the U.S., uh, Denmark, or the Danes, the Royal Danes just flew into Greenland. Iceland is still alive, and then England is also there too. The English, they kind of want to, not be completely alone in Europe, so they just take over Ireland, because why not? So yeah, this is uh, basically the end of World War III. So let's just jump a year or so ahead into like the future or whatever. And this also like took like maybe like a couple of years. Also, in the book, it says that there were a couple of atomic bombings that took place. I think sometime in like the 50s or whatever. And I think it was like in Colchester or something. So yeah, we'll have a few bombings. Like a few here. London is bombed a little bit. So are these cities and like a couple of these cities over here. You can't see them, but you just imagine they're being bombed or nuked. Then we'll also see Moscow hit by a couple of nukes, and also like some other Soviet cities. Berlin is nuked by the Allies. Poland is hit a few times. But yeah, other than that, not a lot of nukes. This is 1940 or like 1950 something. There's not a whole bunch of nukes. The U.S. probably has like 50. The Soviets, I don't even think the Soviets. Actually, no, the Soviets probably have nukes now, but probably not like a huge stockpile, probably only like a dozen or so. So yeah. Now that the, I don't know, conquest of Europe is over, let's kind of just like jump ahead a little bit to like, I guess, like the technical end of the war. I guess the U.S. and UK decided to stop fighting. They are exhausted. It's been like a full decade of or like 2 decades, 2 decades of war, including World War II. They are exhausted. They just want peace. So they're just going to let the Soviets completely dominate Europe. So let's see what happens there. So at the end of this war, we see that the Soviet Union completely takes over and controls the entirety of Europe. They completely absorb every single country under the Soviet flag, even the countries that were in the Warsaw Pact, and even the countries that were neutral, and then they invaded and turned unneutral. So yeah, Europe is now completely dominated by the Soviets, and that kind of scares, America, Canada, Iceland, and England. So what do? Well, they decide to form Oceania. Oceania. So Oceania forms, and it's at the moment it's basically the U.S., Canada, Greenland, Iceland, and the UK. But because this is an alternate reality, uh, the decolonization of Africa hasn't happened yet, meaning that the UK basically still controls all of its territories in Africa. So, uh, in Africa, in the southern bit at least, South Africa, Lesotho, Eswatini, and Angola, Zambia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe, they all basically join up with the or with Oceania. Uh, Even though Angola, I think, is like a Portuguese colony, they still join up with the rest of Oceania, mainly because the Portuguese or the Portuguese government fled to Angola and like, hey, let's join up with them. And so now that basically every single European colonial power has been wiped out by the Soviet Union, uh, all of the colonies down over here in Africa have broken free. However, they are now like in a constant state of like civil war as they are trying to figure out who's going to be the one to like rule their like specific country. So Africa kind of just like devolves into like a little bit of just like constant like civil war and fighting and all that good stuff like that. So yeah, yeah, it's going to be one of the first regions to become like that unclaimed land. In the book 1984, basically all of like northern and sub-Saharan Africa is basically this gray zone where like the three major powers are basically all constantly fighting each other over like specific areas like Africa. They're always like fighting over Africa. They're always fighting over like India and such. So yeah, Africa is basically just like it becomes decolonized, and well, yeah, it basically just becomes decolonized, and it falls into a constant state of civil war because the European powers just kind of fell. Where in our timeline, the European powers just kind of like set up each individual country in Africa, or well, like kind of sucked at doing it, but I think at least had some semblance of government try and take over when they left, and it wasn't just like here, figure it out. So yeah, now it's basically just a huge here, figure it out. So Africa is trying to is attempting to figure it out, but it kind of just completely devolves into chaos. Well, except for like Egypt, because they're kind of like already on their own a little bit. Same with Ethiopia. They're just kind of chilling a little. Uh, yeah, they're basically just like there. Egypt and Ethiopia are basically just there because they uh like pre or Ethiopia pre World War II was basically just its own country. It wasn't colonized. Egypt was colonized, but they were basically just doing their own thing anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Also, we don't really know what exactly happens in Africa, so for all we know, it could have it could either be just like a whole bunch of like city states, like every single city it's like is like its own state. They could there could be like actual like countries there that the like great powers that be just like don't care about, but just like constantly are at war with, or it could just be a whole unorganized mess of lawlessness and no government. Uh, I'm gonna go with that route, mainly because I don't want to deal with all those drawing all those city states and whatnot. Anyway, enough about Africa. Let's go over here to China. At this point, I think the Chinese Civil War is over. Like in 1949, China was in a civil war. I think by 1949, or well, 1948. I think by 1949, the Chinese Civil War was concluded. I'm not too sure on that. I'm not entirely sure when the Chinese Civil War stopped. But let's say by the time of the mid 50s, which is like now ish, China is I don't know once one side complete. Let's just go with like the communists. The communists win their side of the Civil War, and well, yeah, we'll just make him gold for now. But in the book, China is like I think it's like the it's East Asia. It's not called China. So yeah, uh, and they're basically like their own little thing. In the book, all three ideologies are basically the same thing. But yeah, whatever. So China is this right now, and they are going to go to war with Tibet. That is going to be their first action. They are going to invade Tibet and basically just completely take it over. So basically, China, like IRL in our life, in our reality, they basically just kind of like took over Tibet without really a care in the world. So yeah, Tibet is now Chinese, just like in our timeline. But now they are going to invade both of the Koreas. I'm not sure if the breakout of World War III in Europe would have led to a fighting in the Eastern Front over here. Probably, it probably would have. I just kind of forgot about it. I was kind of focusing on Europe, but whatever. We're here now. China goes in and invades both of the Koreas. They completely take them under their control, and yeah, the Korea is now owned by China once again. But that's not the end of China's expansion. They are also going to declare war on Japan. They are still really, really bitter about what happened a couple of years ago back in World War II, about how they kind of just did a whole bunch of nasty stuff over here in China. So yeah, China is going to get revenge on Japan by launching a naval invasion and basically kind of just wiping out all of Japan. Japan at this point is pretty like war fatigued. I think they're still probably rebuilding. They're not like completely rebuilt after World War II. I know that obviously the atomic bombs were dropped on them, but the U.S. also did quite a bit of like firebombing. Like they firebombed Tokyo. I'm not sure if there are other like firebombing efforts outside of Tokyo. I'm sure there were. But yeah, Japan is now Chinese. It is yeah. They also oh wait, I'm not sure why Taiwan. Yeah, they also invade Taiwan. I also forgot Han Island. But yeah, China is now big and strong, but they are also going to continue invading their way into Southeast Asia. Uh, why? Well, they want to be one of the big boys like Oceania and the USSR. The USSR is also going to rename themselves Eurasia, like they did in the book. So yeah, we have Eurasia, Oceania, and now East Asia. So yeah, East Asia is now going to invade into I don't know, Southeast Asia. They I don't know, they want to expand. I'm also going off of the Wikipedia map and in the map I'll put it on screen. As you can they have like they own like all this like Southeast Asia, so I'm just going off that. Also there is no Lao, Vietnam, or Cambodia at this point. It's just like French Indochina. Though I'm sure this would probably all be like rebels now that France is gone. But yeah. Anyways, East Asia is going to continue invading into Southeast Asia. They are basically going to take all of their capitals. I'm not sure why my mouse is being so freaking buggy right now. But whatever. But yeah, China basically just uh, sweeps into Southeast Asia. It's basically a walk in the park for them, and yeah, it's just all gone. It's just gone. No more Southeast Asia. It's now all East Asia. So yeah, that basically just all belongs to them now. Also, real quick, I'm going to mark Africa in gray to show that it's like one of those zones that's constantly being fought over by like everyone else. Egypt and Ethiopia are just gonna like be like that for now. And then now we see Eurasia wanting to continue to expand its borders. We are going to see them declare war on basically the entirety of the Middle East. Why are they declaring war on the entire Middle East and not just a few sections of it? Well, it's because I don't want to draw every single war, because we basically know the outcome of that big war. And yeah, we're gonna start. So, anyways, on with the War of the Middle East. We see the Eurasians move into northern Iran and into northern Iraq. We also see them move into Syria and completely take over Cyprus. We then see them moving down the Mediterranean coast and completely wipe out Lebanon. They also then move in and take out Israel and then capture the capital of Jordan and then basically all Jordan. And then the U.S. And then Eurasia moves down like the Euphrates and Tigris rivers and capture Baghdad. They then basically just take over all of Iraq. And then the hard part, because this was all easy flat land, the hard part now is to move in and invade all this mountainy area. So they are going to do that. They are going to quickly capture Tehran, but that was kind of easy, and now they have to deal with the whole rest of the country. So doing that, they are going to just kind of like carefully do this. Uh, so yeah, they basically slowly invade into the mountains of Iran and Afghanistan. They push further and further down into Iran and Afghanistan. They eventually capture Afghanistan, and then a couple of months later, they completely capture the rest of Iran. And just like what they did with Europe, they are going to completely annex them and take it into their territory. We're going to now quickly go back over to North America for a second. Oceania sees the expansion of Eurasia and East Asia, and they are a little scared. Uh, you know, uh, Oceania on the North American continent is just basically just the US and Canada, and there's a whole continent that could be potentially influenced by East Asia and Eurasia. And so they are basically going to give an ultimatum to a few of these countries down here. Uh, and that ultimatum is going to be join us or get invaded. Kind of similar to how Germany said join us or get invaded to these countries over here back in World War II. But yeah, they are going to say join us or get invaded. The Caribbean countries are going to opt for the easy way out, and they are going to join the United States, or well, not. They are going to join Oceania. Mexico, however, is going to be different, and they are going to say, no, we like being independent. We're not going to uh, join you just because some guys halfway around the world are your enemies. The Oceania doesn't take this kindly, so they basically just sweep down into Mexico and basically just take it out. Along the way, they commit a whole bunch of atrocities, a whole bunch of war crimes, kind of similar to like what Japan was doing. So yeah, Mexico is basically completely, you know, gotten rid of, annihilated, if you will, and they are completely annexed by Oceania. And this kind of sends a message to the Central America, and that message is, if you don't join us, if we don't join Oceania, we are going to die. We're all gonna die. So they for the easy way out, in which they all basically just say, yeah, you know what, we kind of like being alive a little bit. So we're gonna just join up with Oceania, which is the smart move, you know. I don't want to die either. I wouldn't want to be horribly brutalized by Oceanian forces. So yeah, I would also probably just join up with Oceania as well. Now that Oceania has basically the entirety of North America, they are going to go down into South America and be like, hey, and they're going to say the same thing they said to Central America. They're going to be like, hey, join us or die. Colombia, they're going to join them. They don't want to die. Ecuador, they're gonna join them because they don't wanna die. Uh, Venezuela, they put up a little bit of resistance. What's left of France joins them. Guyana, I think, is also owned by some European dudes. I think they also probably would join up with Oceania. And Suriname, I think, is also owned by the British. I don't think they were released yet. I don't know. Fact check me on that, please. In the comments if I'm wrong, say so. But yeah, all these countries down over here, they say, yeah, let's join up with them. We don't want to die. Uh, the few holdouts are going to be Venezuela, Peru, and basically everyone south of that. So yeah, we're gonna see a huge ass war down here in South America, which is basically just gonna be Oceania versus South America, which is gonna be a long and bloody war. And oh, would you look at the time? Ah, shucks, I don't think we are gonna have a whole bunch of time to show all that. All right, well, let's just skip to the highlights of Venezuela being taken out pretty quickly, like so. Uh, Peru, it's gonna be a tricky time getting through the mountains, but Oceania is gonna find a way to do it. Oh wow, they took out Bolivia. And oh, would you look at that? A huge naval invasion from Oceania. Uh, probably got its start over here in Africa. And oh no, would you look at that? Brazil doesn't have a coastline anymore. Uh-oh, there goes Uruguay. Oh no, their Oceanian forces are going through Bolivia and Paraguay and meeting up. Oh no, Brazil no longer is no longer linked up to Argentina and Chile. They're on their own now. And oh, would you look at that? Brazil doesn't have a capital anymore, and Brazil without a capital is basically just the Amazon. And oh well, would you look at that? And in a stunning move, Britain and the British Falkland Islands are used as a staging ground against Argentina and Chile. And oh, would you look at that? Yeah, no more South America. Yeah, South America is completely taken over by Oceania, as you probably remember from that map I showed you about 10 minutes ago. So yeah, now all of South America is owned by Oceania, and Oceania is now definitely the biggest of the three superpowers by far. So yeah, they are kind of okay now. Also, I think Australia and New Zealand would definitely be part of Oceania at this point in time. Mainly because I think they would still like under control of Britain and the Crown of Britain, and yeah, they it would basically just this would all probably be owned by Oceania. I think also Papua New Guinea, like this area, is also owned by Oceania. So yeah, this is basically going to be Oceania. So yeah, Oceania is by far the largest country in this timeline. But we're going to go back over here for a second, and we are going to watch the invasion of these guys down here. That being India, Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan, and Mongolia, and it's not just going to be invaded by East Asia, but it's also going to be invaded by Eurasia, because these two are right next to each other and they're clashing, and two giants next to each other clashing almost always means world war. So we are going to see the East Asians move into Mongolia and try to capture the capital, but we also see the Eurasians move in and they kind of stalemate there. We also see the Eurasians move into Manchuria and basically just kind of like take all that. Then we see the Eurasians move into Pakistan and basically take over all of Pakistan. We also see the East Asians move into eastern India and Bhutan and Bangladesh and Nepal, and that's all gone now. So yeah, basically the only place going to be fighting for is India, and well, it's kind of just like a bloodbath. It's just one huge ass stalemate. To be honest, it's just fighting, constant fighting. I think at this time, India has like, I don't know, maybe like half a billion people. So yeah, it's just a huge slog. So yeah, India is going to be one of the next places, like Africa, where everyone's just fighting over. Same with like the rest of the Middle East, tbh. This also is just like land that is being fought over constantly. So yeah, these are just gonna like remain there, like these fighting areas. Uh, Actually, if anything, we're just gonna also turn them uh into like gray like that. Except for this little bit of East Asia, I'm just gonna turn that into East Asia because I think that's kind of close and accurate to what it's like on the Wikipedia map that I found. So yeah, that is East Asia and Eurasia covered. Uh, and that is actually no, Oceania is I haven't gone through it yet, but Oceania is not INGSOC yet. It's just actually Oceania. It's like democratic and whatever. But we see I think in the book it said like INGSOC rose as like a rebellion of some sorts. I'm not entirely sure. So let's just say it was like a rebellion of sorts, or honestly, we could just say that they were like elected into power. So yeah. Anyways, it doesn't really matter election or being elected into power or just like taking over forcefully, like revolution style. Uh, but in any manner, Oceania is taken over by Ingsoc, which is the party in the book. It's the one that's like controlling everyone and doing horrible, horrible stuff. Basically, like mass surveillance and uh, mind thought and stuff like that. Uh, and I'll say this is like 1959 ish. Let's just say because like Ingsoc has to basic has because if this is like let's say 1960, they have 24 years until the events of 1984, and I think it's kind of a little hard to believe that maybe it could happen, but that like Ingsoc is basically spying and doing all that stuff in the book, and across the entirety of Oceania in like 24-ish years. So let's just say it's like the mid to late 50s at this point in time. So yeah, this is the world of 1984. We have uh, Eurasia over here in Eurasia. We have East Asia over here in like East Asia, and we have Oceania, which IRL Oceania is basically just over here in Australia. But Oceania is two entire continents: the British Isles, Southern Africa, and Australia, New Zealand, and Papua New Guinea. So yeah, that is basically today's video. There's also this little theory that none of this out over here is happening. Like this whole video just didn't happen, and Ingsoc only exists in like the British Isles or something. And the party is just purposely launching bombs into London and other cities to scare the populace. Uh, and if you believe in that theory, then good for you. You believe in that theory. Uh, cool, I guess, book theory. But yeah, this is what I say happened, maybe, probably, possibly, in the world of 1984. So yeah, if you enjoyed today's video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 500 subscribers by the end of the year. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.